Good morning, and welcome to our Tuesday Middle School Chapel. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning again, middle school. It is such a joy to see you all via this video recording, and I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and glad to have you back here this Tuesday morning. So after today's chapel, 8th grade will gather outside by the Kevin Conklin bell for the bell ringing ceremony. We have a couple of 8th graders who will be ringing the bell today, so please gather outside for the bell ringing. This morning, I want to introduce an 8th grader, Abigail Delp, who has made such a strong impression, such a wonderful impression upon her classmates and her teachers during the 2 years that she's been with us. Abby came to us in 7th grade, and Abby is one of those students you wish had been at Montgomery much longer. She is a wonderful student. And at the time she has been here, she has established herself as a kind person, a thoughtful friend, someone who is always welcoming and positive towards others, and always has a smile on her face. And when she sees her teachers or her friends, she is always the first one to say hello and greet them by name, which I love about Abby. Abby's teachers say that she's very mature and she would make a great leader, and I totally agree with them. She is a wonderful scientist and a problem solver. She is also a very loyal Disney World aficionado. And she shares that affection, that passion for Disney World with Mrs. Shellhorn. And I also know that Abby is a wonderful big sister to her 2 twin brothers, Justin and Ryan. Abby also has a very cool hobby and a skill set that I know she is eager to talk to you about. So let's give it up for Abigail Delp.
Thank you, Mr. Raj, for that warm introduction. Hello, parents, students, and faculty. My name is Abigail Delp, and today I will be talking about some of the important lessons that I have learned from being a certified scuba diver. What is scuba diving? Scuba diving is a mode of underwater diving where the diver uses a self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, which is entirely independent from the surface supply to breathe underwater. The process that goes along with getting this certification might be harder than you would think. Scuba is not something that you can just go out and do. It actually takes 7 weeks of classes and pool training. During the pool training, you do things like practicing taking your goggles completely off and putting them back on while underwater, learning how to control your buoyancy, and fixing your tank if it falls off or comes loose. And during the classes, you do things like learning all of the different types of gear and where to put it when assembling, and some of the different signals used to communicate while diving. But one of the hardest parts for me was learning how to read and use dive tables. Dive tables are charts used to know how long you can be underwater and how many dives you can do before your nitrogen levels get too high. After learning all of these things, you take a very long and difficult test. And after you pass this test, you then do 3 open water dives. During these dives, you practice things like your emergency ascent, which is where you ascend in 30 feet of water with no air. And after all of these steps, you are officially a scuba diver. The first lesson that I will be talking about today is the importance of taking life slow and learning to appreciate the little things. In scuba diving, you are going into a whole new habitat and environment, and it is very easy to want to swim fast so you can see more of it. But if you do this, you will miss out on some of the interesting little species that are down there that make it unique. Sure, you would still see all of the coral and big schools of fish, but you wouldn't see something like a starfish or a sea urchin. For example, the first time I dove, I went very fast, and the instructor had to stop me and show me these little pieces of coral called feather dusters. Feather dusters are small pieces of coral that have feather-like tentacles sticking out of them, and if you hover your hand over them, they will suck back into the center. To me, they were just random pieces of coral I saw as I was swimming past, but they turned out to be one of the coolest things that I saw. This same idea of taking things slow can also apply to everyday life. If you are always focused on the next big or expensive thing, such as a new car or your next vacation, you could miss out on some of the small things that can make you just as happy. For me, this is snuggling with my dog, but there are so many little things in life that bring people joy. The next lesson is that some things can look scarier from the surface. What this means is that unless you try, or in my case, dive in, you might never know what you missed out on. In SCUBA, some of the dives you will do will look very intimidating. For example, there was one that I did that was a huge shipwreck from World War II, called the Antilla, and from the top, it looked like one of the scary shipwrecks that you would see in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and it was terrifying. My dive instructor and dad had to convince me to get in the water, but once we were down there, it was beautiful. This dive ended up being one of my favorites, and if I hadn't jumped in, I would have missed out on something that was an incredible experience. If you get the opportunity to go somewhere, like a good school, or you get invited to something that you feel skeptical about, I feel that even if you are scared, sometimes it is worth just trying, because it might be one of the best things you do in your life. My third lesson is the importance of double-checking yourself or your work. When you set up your gear for SCUBA, you must double-check after every step. If you don't do this, you could overlook something that you messed up on and could potentially die or get seriously injured. For example, checking something as simple as if you have your air tank on, or if all the parts of your BCD are connected. Now, in everyday life, this will be way less severe, but it still applies. For example, if you are doing your homework and you don't check your work, you could easily miss a mistake that you could have fixed and gotten correct. Getting in the habit of checking your work is something that I believe is very important and something that I think could benefit anyone in any situation. Another critical thing in diving is having a buddy or partner that you can trust. For me, this is my dad, but your buddy can be anyone with a certification. This is essential to having a safe dive because your life could end up in their hands. And if they don't know how to handle it or aren't paying attention to you, you could both be put in a very dangerous situation. For example, if you run out of air, your buddy is your alternate air supply. On their gear, they have an extra regulator, which is the mouthpiece, that if they don't know how to get to you for you to use, you could be at a serious risk of running out of air and dying. Having a buddy also makes diving a lot more fun because you have someone to share the experience with. When you dive, it is amazing, and have someone to talk about it with makes it 10 times better. In life, having good friends is something that I find necessary. Having someone you can always go to and know that you can trust is very comforting. And it also makes life a lot more fun and enjoyable to have someone experience it right beside you. My final and most important lesson is to always remember to just breathe. Obviously, you need to breathe to live, but this is not what I'm referring to. What I mean by this is that if you are stressed or feeling with anxiety, taking a second to focus on breathing can be very beneficial. Scuba diving can be very scary, and you might see something that startles you or freaks you out. In my case, this is even more of a problem because I'm scared of almost everything. So, there have been many times while diving that I have had to remember this and not panic and just breathe. This can also apply to if you are about to take a big test and you are nervous. Taking a couple of big breaths could help you get in the zone and in turn get you a good grade. Or, if you are nervous to do something, like presenting your 8th grade chapel, that breath could calm you down enough to do something incredible. To finish off my chapel today, I would like to show a short video of some of the experiences I have had that have made scuba truly worth it for me.
just trying to figure out how to be myself right now. I don't wanna lay low, hiding in the shadows. So I wake up, I get out of bed, stay up, stay out of my head, it's dangerous. And I don't wanna lose my mind, no. I just wanna shine like the sun when it comes up. Run the city from the rooftops. Cause today's gonna be my day. I just wanna climb to the top of a mountain. Stand tall when I'm howling. Cause today's gonna be my day. Wake up and I stay up 'cause I'm stronger.
Thank you to Mr. Hutchison, Mr. Hamilton, and my parents for helping me with my chapel. Thank you and have a fantastic day.